Hey everyone, it's Julie, and I am on to have a little chat with you all about the Everyday Witch Oracle. For those of you who have been with me and my channel for a little while, you already know how much I love the Everyday Witch Tarot. So when I heard that they were creating an Oracle deck, I was absolutely ecstatic. And now that I have been working with this deck for a good month, I thought I would share with you my experiences with it. So right off the bat, I will say that this deck, for the thin cardstock that it has, shuffles beautifully. I mean, it's so much fun to shuffle. It is thin cardstock, and that's what allows me to actually riffle, shuffle, and bridge this deck, which is not easy to do with an Oracle deck, but I can do it with this deck. So already that scored points with me. And then, of course, you have just the beautiful artistry of Elizabeth Alba. Just wonderful artwork, beautifully pairs with the Everyday Witch Tarot. And the guidebook is great as well. I really enjoy Deborah Blake's writing. I think it's very accessible, and I liked her writing in the Everyday Witch Tarot, and I know that she also has other books that I would like to also get my hands on. So, I think just overall, in terms of the art, in terms of the writing, well done, well done. This deck provides a unique system for using the cards. So you have 40 total cards, and they're divided into 10 suits. And these 10 cards are assigned to one of 4 elements. So fire, air, earth, and water. So if we take a look at the guidebook here, you can see you have the element of earth, which is grounding and practical action, and then the 10 cards in that suit. Same with air, which is thought and communication, 10 cards, fire, creativity and passion, and then water, change and movement. And each of these 10 cards represents its own theme. So all of the first cards in the suit will represent an introduction to that element. The second card of each suit will represent internal work that you have to do. The third card, meditation, and so on. And what's also great is that for each card, Deborah Blake provides 3 approaches for how you can work with the message of that card. So you can take action. You can use this deck as more of a divination tool, or you can use it for magical purposes. That is not to say you have to use the prescribed system in the guidebook. You can still use the deck and do random 1-card draws, in which case the elements and the themes of the cards maybe won't matter as much. You're going to merely focus on taking in the image and the key phrases of each card. But it's a nice alternative to be able to use the system to focus on a particular area and work with only those suit of cards in that appropriate element. So say you want to work on creativity, then you would take the 10 cards from the element of fire and work with that suit and be intentional with just those 10 cards. So there is flexibility with how to use this deck, which is great. And I will say that personally, I did hit some stumbling blocks in the very beginning as I was getting to know this deck. One of the things that presented a slight challenge for me is that the cards are not numbered. And I know that there is an index in the guidebook that lays out the page numbers for you, and that's supposed to be the quick way to look up the card. And you also then have to recognize what elemental designation that card falls into, which in the beginning I wasn't always so sure. I still found myself having to kind of search through and fumble my way through to find the card description that I was looking for, which is a slight gripe, but you know. So for instance, you have a card like this. Imagine and envision. So you can, look at the key phrase here and think, well, that could be the element of fire, which is supposed to represent creativity and passion, as does the image. It can represent that. But then you kind of have this coloring, which is a common color pattern that you see for the air suit. And so I was a little confused. Is this a fire card? Is this an air card? Because if I take a look at this card right here, sun and stars, this is for the element of fire. So you can see how, it just gets a little bit murky. And then you have, say, a card like this, which to me screams earth element. But actually, this is also from the suit of fire. Because as you explore the deck more, you can kind of see little motifs and little themes. I would say it would be helpful to really read the guidebook all the way through first and really just look at the cards to pick up the clues for what make the card from a suit of a certain element. For me, it was just not clear all the time. While I understand they didn't want to number the cards because then you have repeating numbers because of the structure, I would still argue that you could still number these cards and then just put the elemental symbol beside it. So you would have 1 of air, 1 of fire, and 10 of fire. And that would have, I think, made things a little easier for me, and I would have been able to get a handle on the deck a little more quickly. But again, a minor gripe. Another thing that I struggled with a little bit in the beginning is the way the system is organized. So if we go back to the index, you see that they provide the element and then they give you all the cards in that suit. And for me, that didn't really help me to learn the themes of each card, what they all represented. And so what I decided to do was to reorganize and restructure the system in a way that I could digest a little more easily. And again, I'm sure many of you probably have no trouble if you have the deck, no trouble at all. But for me, it was more helpful to rewrite it so that I was able to see the theme. So all the first cards of the suit is an introduction to the element, a way to connect with or embrace the essence of that element, and then list all of the different number 1 cards for each element beneath. And then same for the second theme, and then list all of the 4 elemental cards, number 3. And so this way I got a better handle of what the themes were and how each of the cards progressed and how you could use this system and focus on a particular element. Ultimately, I decided I just wanted to use the cards intuitively and not really worry about the system. And what I found is that it was hit and miss for me. Very hit and miss. I did pair it with the Everyday Witch Tarot, and my goodness, they do look beautiful together, of course. But if we're not using the system described in the guidebook, for me, just going by the image and going by the key phrase, it just wasn't enough. So, as an example, a card like this, Tears of Joy and Sadness, this is not immediately clear to me, and so I would have to consult the guidebook to have a better handle on what this is supposed to illustrate, what this message is supposed to convey, and what I'm supposed to take from it. Same with a card like this, Healing Waters. I wouldn't know what to do with this card, and so once again, I would have to rely on the guidebook. And then, as a final example, affirmation for healing the heart. I would need to consult the guidebook to know what this affirmation would be. While I love guidebooks, I appreciate a well-written guidebook, I don't want to have to rely on a guidebook when I'm using a deck. And I felt like for several of these cards, it's just a little murky. And then another thing that occurred to me is that some of the cards felt a bit repetitive. And of course, if you consult the guidebook, you use the elemental system, there will be nuances, different nuances, yes. But as an example, change and progress. Then you have affirmation for positive change. And then you have transformation and change. So again, like I said, yes, different nuances. This is the fire. No, this is where I get mixed up. I think this is the air element. Yes, this is the air element. These two are water. So, okay, great. And I can consult the guidebook and get some clarity on that. But I didn't want to consult the guidebook. Those were just some of my thoughts on the Everyday Witch Oracle. I hope this wasn't too rambly. This is a great deck. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this deck. And I know that there are many people out there who have had no trouble connecting with it and no trouble working with the elemental system that's laid out in the guidebook. And it just is what it is. I didn't connect with it the way I wanted to, which is a little bit disappointing. I have a deep relationship with the Everyday Witch Tarot, and so I suppose I did set the bar pretty high for this deck, which might have been unfair, but there you have it. And it just didn't work out the way I was hoping, and that's okay. I still found a lot of value in working with it over the month just to see how we would get along. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. Let me know if you have been working with the Everyday Witch Oracle and how you've been getting along, or let me know of other Oracle decks that you have been working with and have been really excited about. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope all is well. Take care.